Okay, so we've got about 250 people out there watching this morning, this afternoon. We've got about, it looks like about 20 here in the room, so it's good to have everybody with us. For those of you especially, though, obviously most of our folks are watching this webinar, and you're wanting to find out what we're doing, what's going on, how this implementation is going to roll forward. And so I want to say to you, welcome, and thank you for the work that you're doing in our local school systems. Obviously, we all know that that we have kind of mixed feelings here. I think we're very excited. I know that I'm very excited. Dr. Thacker and I have had many conversations with other folks around the department about the contract that we have with PowerSchool. We feel very strongly that PowerSchool is going to be able to take us kind of to the next level on student information. We're going to have a secure platform. We're going to have a stable platform that we're going to be able to really use data in a way we've never used it before because of the particularly with the state hosting and with the cloud-based system. We're going to have live data that follows students, and there's so many positives about going to this new system. But I know there's a lot of anxiety out there too. So I've talked to some tech directors and superintendents who know that even though we are moving forward with really the same company, that it is a new and much more advanced product than what we had with Chalkable. So there's some anxiety about porting over all the information and moving forward. But I will say this, and I feel good about this, and I'll be turning it over to the folks from PowerSchool in a few minutes. But all of my interactions with our partners at PowerSchool have been very positive, that they know the challenge we're up against. They have done this successfully in other places. They are committed to doing it successfully here, and they're going to help us move forward. I got a question last month, well, what if we are just not ready to move forward next year? Well, I think that's a small if, not a big if, because I think we will be ready. But if we are not, they have assured us that they're going to make sure that we don't have some gap where we don't have student schedules and those kind of things. We will have a complete and seamless flow from the old product to the new product. That does not mean that there won't be any glitches. In fact, there will always be glitches. Many of you have heard me use this analogy, but not everybody has. So I'm going to use it one more time. Everybody who is watching this or in this room who has driven from Montgomery to Birmingham knows that it is a real pain to get from Alabaster to Pelham and on into Birmingham because we're widening the interstate and repaving. So to move to something that is newer and better and faster and safer for everybody, we all have to slow down and go through that process. And that's kind of where we are now. We've got to go through the process of shifting from one system to another system, but when we get there, we're going to have something that really is more modern, that's faster, that's more stable, that's more secure, that is a much better product for our schools. And so I am willing to sit through those traffic jams on occasion, knowing that I see the construction going on around me and that we're moving forward. And I think everybody else understands that too, that we're going to have to move forward, and we're going to move forward together. And I would say to our partners in the schools that are watching, when you have obstacles or you see a hurdle coming, if you will let us know, that we have people in place both on our staff, the people with PowerSchool who are in constant communication, and everybody wants to be working together for this seamless transition. So when you see hurdles coming, let us know as soon as they're there so we can begin working, because if you see a hurdle in one part of the state, it more than likely is going to be a hurdle somebody else will encounter too. So we can help one another move through that. So without any further ado, I think, I'm not exactly sure, am I going to turn this over to you, Dr. Thacker?
I'm going to turn over to Jenny.
Okay, Jeannie Scott's going to come up. I'm going to turn it over to Jeannie and Matt. There's a few of these people, and David. So, two of these people I know pretty well, and they're Alabama folks. We're glad to have them. Dave, we're glad to have you here too. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them move through the rest of the afternoon. But again, as I do that, let me say, especially to Jeannie and Matt, who are Alabama folks. Matt's been one of our school administrators. They're not only committed to this implementation working, they are, I can say without hesitation, 100% committed to Alabama public schools and our public school students. And we're very glad to have them working on this project. So I'm going to turn it over to y'all. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. I am Matt Swan, and I'm one of the account executives for PowerSchool, along with Jeannie Scott and David Michaelove. And we are, first of all, we would just like to say thank you to the State Department for all the hard work and diligence that they put in to making sure that students in Alabama got the correct solution, which is a solution that encompasses a lot more than just a student information system. And I'm just like Dr. Mackey said, we know that there are going to be some trying times, but it is very exciting coming from an education background to be able to see what we have had in the past and what we are going to have in the future. And just at any point, like Dr. Mackey said, if you feel uncomfortable or there's something that you need to talk about, you can always call me or Jeannie or David, and we would be glad to speak to you. And I'm going to turn it over to David.
Hi, I'm Dave Michaelove. I'm the account executive for PowerSchool, and I work on the talent side of our solution. And I am excited to be here and being part of the team and in partnership. But I did want to give our thoughts and prayers out to the Lee County community. Yesterday, I went to the benefit concert they had for the tornado victims, and I just wanted to say I was just so amazed at the strength and the love that came out of that community. It just it shook me, and the way that community has come together to help all the folks who just went through something terrible. I just wanted to say that it was an amazing experience for me to hear the stories and how the first responders and how the community came together to support those people, and it's ongoing. And we're excited, as well to be a partner, and I'm just proud to be a partner to Lee County and also the state of Alabama. So glad to be part of this. Turn over to you.
Okay, and I am Jenny Scott. I am one of the other account executives in the state. I have been with the STI Chalkable, now PowerSchool company for 5 years in the state of Alabama. So I have been with you for a long time, working through all of these different transitions, and continue to stay with you through this next step. Today we're going to have several guest speakers that will be covering the different portions of the platform. And I'm going to let you know who they are. When they come up, they'll identify themselves. But today we have Lisa Gooseman, who is the VP of Sales in the South Region. We also have Aaron Dollinger, who is the Director of K-12 Sales with the Talent Solution. We've got Chad Cole, who is one of our Solutions Engineers. Renee Pardo is the Director of Solution Strategy. And then Ed Diedick, who is the VP Solution of Sales. So we are going to get started with Chad Cole. Thank you.
Thank you, and it really is good to be here with you this afternoon. This is kind of the agenda, how we want to get through things. A couple different ways it could be described. Our idea is just to give you a taste of what life is going to be like with PowerSchool for some of your customers and your end users. Your customers being your students, their parents and guardians, the staff in your school districts. And so we want to break our presentation over the next 90 minutes or so down into these topic areas, and we'll be spending time in each one. And I get to start things off for you by taking a look at things from a parent and student perspective. One of the things that maybe we don't give enough attention to in education today is simply the engagement of families. How do we get them involved in the education process? Because outside of the time that students spend with teachers, we know that the research shows families, parents, guardians who are involved in the education process, it benefits us on the school side. The students pay better attention, they're more involved, they get their work turned in on time. So some of the themes we're going to look at here as we go through the next few minutes, as we take a look at what PowerSchool and the Unified Classroom bring to those parents and those students, are just the ease of access, because we're going from multiple disparate systems to single sign-on solutions. So whereas parents and students may have had to have separate logins in the past for a lot of the different things they're doing, with the unified classroom, we want to try and eliminate that and make things easier for them. So we'll see that today. That ease of access, the tools that they're going to have access to, really brings them in and helps them stay engaged. We also have adaptive learning opportunities available in the unified classroom to tie into the special education things and work alongside students who have special needs right within the platform. And then communication tools, expanding out the ability for teachers to talk to and with parents and their students. So we're going to jump over into PowerSchool and take a look at this. We're going to jump in first as a student. Normally we don't like to show login screens, but one of the things that we want to make sure you're aware of is the solution gives you flexibility as a school district and as a state. Local school districts are still going to have a lot of autonomy over what they do, and so if you're a Microsoft district, your students and staff can authenticate into the unified classroom using those credentials. If you're a Google school district, then you can still use those credentials to log in as well. And my student that we take a look today is in an O365 setup, so I can use those credentials, I get right in, and this is going to begin that single sign-on process for me as a student of having access to multiple different systems in one place, my unified classroom interface. So taking a look at the dashboard, some of the things that we just want to focus on quickly, I have alerts that let me know I have communication. I'm going to be having lists of upcoming assignments from the grade books. I get calendar information about special events that are going on in my classes and at the school district. I have a list of any assignments that are going to be due today that I need to work on. And I also can get some reminders from my parents. My parents can actually stick reminders for me out there on my dashboard as a student. So now I remember I have to go to the dentist on Friday. My parents maybe put some information about who they've contacted at the school, and I'll be able to access that as a student. I also get performance-based information. I can quickly see what's going on in all of my classes. If I've had any late assignments, if I've been absent, I'm also going to be able to see standards progress. As many of your schools work towards implementing standards-based grading, competency-based learning, PowerSchool and the Unified Classroom have full support for both of those things, and the students can track their progress as that's being entered into the Unified Classroom in the grade book. And then finally, that activity feed where I'm seeing communication from my teachers directly to me and my classmates and or my parents. So some of the things that I might do, I'm a student, I just logged in, it's the start of my school day. I see that I do have this Biomes of the Sea assignment that's due. I can get more information on it. If I want to see that in a couple different ways, I can. More importantly, this is what the teacher handed out to me. And when I open this up, if I have any needs, some special needs, I can actually get in and use things like Microsoft's Immersive Reader that's part of their platform to actually read this document to me, and hopefully we'll be able to hear this without any feedback.
Describe, in detail, the biomes in the middle layers of the ocean, between 1,000 and 7,000 feet in depth.
So if Caleb needed that assistance while he's in doing his work in Unified Classroom, it's right there for him. Now he's finished with this assignment. He's going to upload this directly from his OneDrive. And the teacher's going to be able to see that in their grade book as well. So Caleb's been able to hand in his work. He's been able to get an overview of how he's doing in his classes, but his teachers push a lot of content out to him as well. And so he's coming into his first hour class. Maybe he wants to go to that learning management system and see what his teacher has for him today. Without having to log into a separate system, Caleb's going right into his teacher's class pages from the learning management system. So for today, this should be their first stopping point. We see we've got a class discussion, so he can click into that and participate using some of the tools. Once he puts his information in, the teacher set it up so he can actually see the discussion with his classmates and participate in that. So Aden actually already got his information in earlier today, and now he can participate in that threaded discussion with his classmates. But he can also get into other things. You know, my 5th grade stepson has logins to probably a dozen different platforms that are being used in his class. Class Dojo, a couple different math sites, some spelling sites. With Unified Classroom, his teachers could be posting all of that information right here in one location for him, and then he can interact with it. So in this case, my teacher has used Quizlet to actually post a vocabulary study for Caleb, and Caleb can get in and start practicing for next week's quiz that he's going to have to learn all these words for. Single sign-on, easy access for Caleb. What about Caleb's parents? They're also going to have a dashboard where they can get in and see this information, and you may not have noticed that transition. It was pretty quick. I jumped over to a new user, but I'm logged in as Caleb's parent now. This is where I could put in things like those personal reminders, but I can also see the work that he's been doing. So he handed in that biomes of the sea. If I refresh this, because I had it loaded earlier, we want to see the latest information. Here's his assignment details. And as a parent, I can actually get in and see the work that my child turned in addition to being able to see when the teacher put those scores in, and things like the immersive reader are going to be available to me as a parent as well. So if the students have parents who have needs, we can accommodate those in our dashboards too. That's a very high level look at what your parents and students will be experiencing in Unified Classroom. Kind of a wet your whistle, so to speak. And we know a lot of you are going to have more in-depth questions, and that's when you can reach out to Matt and Jenny and get longer, deeper dive demos of all of these different pieces scheduled. In addition to what we just saw, that entire Unified Classroom is mobile responsive. You know, the smart devices are prevalent in society today, so the kids are going to be able to access all that content on their iPads, Chromebooks, whatever device they have in their hands. And for parents and students that want to track this information through their phones, we do have smart apps there as well. So parents and students can download these. They're some of the most popular apps in the iOS and Google App Store today, and we have statistics that show the average user who has these on their phone is opening them up and looking at this information about 2.5 times a day on average. So we know it's engaging those parents and students in the process of education. More importantly, it is literally keeping them up to date in real time. So these are examples from my own phone and watch of things, notifications that I get. Anytime my son's final grades change in his classes, I get a notification about that on my watch and my phone. If he's marked absent while I'm on the road doing a demonstration like this, I know it within just a few minutes of the start of the school day when the teacher puts that attendance code in for him. So that's a quick look at our parent and student side of things. Now we want to jump over and take a brief look at the teacher side. So we'll switch over to a teacher view of the dashboard. You'll notice consistency. The teachers, the students, the parents, they're getting a similar experience. Nothing more frustrating as a teacher to have a parent who calls in about something that you've put out for them, but their experience isn't the same as yours, so you can't tell where they're at. You'll be able to direct, your teachers can direct the parents where to click to find things because they're going to have a similar layout in Unified Classroom. So again, making things easier for them. For our teachers, you know, they get that dashboard with the same components that the students have. They get their messages, they get their calendar information. Today happens to be my day to pick my kids up from daycare, so I put that reminder in there. But more importantly, if we look at that reminder, I've got one to restart speech services for one of my students. Things that I may have been in the habit of writing out and putting on my desk in sticky notes, I can make those things here in the Unified Classroom and protect that information for my students. I get my communication feeds of my assignments that are happening in this class. This is where I can score those pieces of information, and we'll take a look at that again in a moment here. But I also get class level feedback in my dashboard in regard to things like the standards that we're using in my class. And these standards can be local, they can be state standards, and I can align those with my assignments and then see how my kids are doing on those. And then traditional grade feedback as well. And when I need to remind my class of things that's upcoming, I'll be able to quickly do that right from the dashboard. And I can choose, if I teach multiple classes of the same section, I can choose which classes get this. I can have options to send messaging to parents and students right now via email, as well as them getting it in the unified classroom. And I'm going to link assignments directly to this, or files from my computer or OneDrive or Google Drive. Flexibility for teachers, single sign-on capabilities, making life easier and better for them. When teachers do need to score the students' work, so here's our biomes of the sea. Caleb just turned in that assignment a few minutes ago. I can already see it out here. So as a teacher, I have easy access to the online work that Caleb turned in. I could go in, score this. I actually have a rubric based on some standards here that I can score this against. Maybe he really showed a great scientific inquiry here, and the use of technology was okay, but he could have maybe done a little bit better on how he used it. And notice this can automatically score the assignment for me. So the way that I have this set up, as I score that rubric, it's creating final scores, and this information is going directly into my grade book. So there's no data transfer that I have to worry about as a teacher. I've put the assignment out there, I get it back into Unified Classroom, I score it here, and the student gets that feedback immediately as well. When I want to add content in for my students, I can quickly get to my class pages, just like my students can, without having to log into a different system. So maybe I wanted to put up a poll about the A-Day game coming up here. We're about 4 weeks out from the spring game for the Crimson Tide. I could very easily add in some content here. So I can go in, I have options for things like polls, but more importantly, there's that content. So we saw how Caleb had access to a Quizlet quiz that he could practice his vocabulary. I can add in LTI and SCORM content that I may already be using in my classroom. A lot of teachers are using things like BrainPop and OneNote and Quizlet and Khan Academy. I can incorporate those things directly into what my parents and students are seeing in my classroom content, and they don't have to log in anyplace else to get it. It's going to be there and be available for them. Again, very high level look at what's going on in the unified classroom for teachers. But hopefully what I hope you see here is that it's bringing together things for them in multiple places to ease their administrative burdens while they're teaching. When it comes to things like that content that I push out to my class, another key feature is they don't have to reinvent the wheel every year. We have strong libraries where they can go in, they can import content from previous years into those pages. More importantly, they can share that content with each other. They can also bring in content from other unified classroom users around the state. So if I go to a conference and I see some great content that somebody else has in their unified classroom, they can send me a link and I can bring that into my unified classroom pages to share with my students and their families. Again, not just increasing engagement because of what I can do, but because of the resources that I can tap into, both in my own local school system and the statewide school system as well. We want to take some time to jump over into and talk about some of the other daily things that teachers have to do. You know, teachers do have a lot of administrative duties. They have to do things like taking attendance. They need vital information, some alerts about students. And how do they get that in Unified Classroom? Because we're bringing together those disparate systems for teachers, they're going to be able to get in and see that easily here. So within this Unified Classroom dashboard, I do have easy access to the data for my students and their classes. On an individual student level, if I want to see exactly how Caleb is doing, I can get in and get detailed information about Caleb, not just for my class, but for all of the classes that he's enrolled in. So I can get a 360-degree view of Caleb within just a few clicks, see exactly how he's doing in all of his courses based on any term in the school year I may want to refine this to. His scores, I'll be able to see the standards that he's being assessed on in all of those classes, and then any of his recent assignment information. And I can burrow down into those things and see detailed information as well. In addition, if Caleb has things like a 504 plan, I'll be able to quickly access that directly from Unified Classroom. And in a few minutes, my colleague Renee is going to get up here and really give us a good detailed overview about that kind of access, how your teachers and administrators will be able to get in and easily look at that information and get the information they need about what's going on in their classroom with their students. Some of the other ways that I have access to the data about my students. Traditional score sheets. This is all part of Unified Classroom, and it's all part of the core SIS PowerSchool product. So I can get in and score assignments individually, like we saw with Caleb, where I could grade against a rubric, but I'm also going to have easy access to my score sheets right within the Unified Classroom interface. And multiple types of score sheets. So this is just an assignment level score sheet, but I also get standards-based grade score sheets. So if we're using standards within the classroom, I can very quickly and easily get in and see how my students are doing. More importantly, you'll notice kind of in some of these columns there's a little orange circle. This is letting me know that if I'm associating standards to my assignments, the system's telling me the final calculation for that may not be consistent with student performance, and I may actually want to see how the student did. So I can very quickly and easily burrow down into this and see here's how Caleb did on all of these different assignments that this standard was associated with. I see the assignment score, the standard score, and if there was any kind of remediation that was needed on this, I'll have the ability in Unified Classroom to push that out, targeted at specifically Caleb or any of his classmates. Because other areas that I can get progress information on are things like my standards progress tools, where I'm going to be able to see all of the standards that are associated with this course and see how the students are doing on it. So over time, I see I have 12 students currently in Q1 that were showing proficiency in this standard, 9 who were not, and I can do term over term comparison here as well, just by selecting the different terms to be able to see how students are trending as they move through the school year and we continue to assess these standards. Same thing with my traditional grades as well. I'll be able to get feedback on those, being able to see how the students are grouped together and to see that progress. How are they trending for the year versus the semester, so on and so forth, with nice visual graphics for me to show which direction they're going. Another administrative task I'm going to do, while all that data is great, I need to do things like take attendance simply and quickly. So from my Unified Classroom, I can launch the PowerSchool attendance pages for me. Couple of things that I can see quickly here. I do have a student, Randall, who's already been marked out with an illness. Any attendance that the office puts in is easily available to me, including any comments that they may have included. So now I know he was sick, the parents think he's got the flu. This may be something where he's going to be out for a few days. I can go back into my Unified Classroom, create that communication, attach some assignments for it, push that out to Randall so he has that information, and we don't have those excuses of, well, I was home and I didn't know what went on in class. We also get alert information. It's important for teachers to have vital pieces of information about their students and get easy access to it. So, for example, Kendall has a guardian alert. A guardian alert is just showing me the parents live separately. But I may have more dangerous things out there. So you can always put in things like photos of people that shouldn't be picking a student up. I'm also going to have quick access to whether or not my students have special education accommodations I need to be aware of. So things like my 504 alerts and my special education. And Renee's going to show us how we can use this information to very quickly get in and see IEP summaries as teachers, or if I'm a caseload worker, to get in and work with their documentation. Taking attendance, students are assumed to be present. If everybody was there, I click submit and I get great feedback letting me know all of my kids, I've taken attendance in this class today, and we'll look at administratively how do we follow up on this a little bit later. And again, all of that information is being reported back to students and parents in real time through their dashboards as well. So if I had any students I'd marked absent or tardy in that class period, the parents and students would be able to see that information in the unified classroom immediately once the attendance was submitted. So the unified classroom dashboard is really where we're bringing together the tools teachers use every day in their class, making those tools easy to access, easy to use, sharing data in real time, saving teachers time, and if we can save teachers time in dealing with these areas, we're putting them back up in front of their class more. And we know that's the biggest impact in their classroom is the time that they get to spend with their students. Teachers who are sitting behind desks, putting in assignment scores, moving data between different systems, those are teachers that are losing valuable time with their kids. And Unified Classroom can help give them some of that time back. Unified Classroom, just kind of in summary, we're going to give teachers tools to analyze their student data. Some basic tools right out of the box. PowerSchool as a product family, we've got some other great tools you may want to invest in and look at later as well. But you're going to give teachers the ability to get a 360-degree view of their kids just on the data that's being put into grade books and with the learning management system. Easy access to attendance information, and then being able to do all of that in one interface that's very similar to what the parents and students are experiencing as well, so they get that shared experience. So that kind of wraps up the wet your whistle part of the parent-student experience and teacher experience with Unified Classroom. My colleague Renee is now going to come up and spend some time showing us more information about PowerSchool special programs and how that integrates with all of this.
Thank you, Chad. Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. My name is Renee Pardo, and it's my privilege to talk to you today about PowerSchool special programs. PowerSchool Special Programs is used in 29 states across the U.S. We're a mature solution that's been around for 20 plus years. We manage over 2 million students with our solution, and we're really happy and excited to be working with Alabama school districts with our special program solution. So over the next 25 minutes or so, I'm going to show you at a high level how our special programs documentation can provide that very important access and collaboration to your staff and your administrators and at the state level that need that. I'm also going to point out to you how this is all going to be driven by security permissions that are going to be configurable at the district level so that those staff that need access to that important information will have it. And we'll point out that as we go through today. And then finally, we're going to touch on reporting. PowerSchool Special Programs has a robust reporting tool that's included. It's going to allow for real-time access to reports that are going to inform decision making at every level, from the end user to the administrator to the state. Now, I know you're using SETS currently for special education, and we will be migrating districts from SETS to PowerSchool special programs as part of that project implementation, and you'll be hearing more information about that in the upcoming weeks and months. I'm confident that you're going to find our solution is going to be a very modern, very streamlined, very comprehensive solution, and most importantly for a transition, very easy to use. And all the reporting that you have access today in SETS is going to be available to you in PowerSchool special programs and even more. But keep in mind that I will be presenting today out of a generic database, but over the next coming months we'll be working with the state of Alabama to configure our special education solution and gifted solution per the state specific requirements. All right. Okay. Now, one of the most important things that I'm excited to share with you today is that your move from SETS to PowerSchool is not limited to special education and gifted. It's also going to include documentation and reporting for response to intervention. Again, we'll have special education. It's going to include 504, gifted and talented, and English language learners. It's going to provide your staff and your administrators the ability to create, review, and manage this very important documentation within the screens that folks are using every day. So let's go ahead and dive in, and we'll spend the next 20 minutes or so looking at exactly what PowerSchool Special Programs looks like. So here I'm going to be logged in as a teacher, but again, keep in mind that the administrators have that same access, as will the State Department. You know, my colleague Chad pointed out the alerts, and I think it's important to talk specifically about the alerts in PowerSchool special programs and the way that that works, because it really can solve for a lot of the manual processes that districts have in place in terms of identifying for staff which students have this very important documentation and then making that documentation accessible to those staff that need it. So again, if I'm over here on my attendance screen, I'm going to see an alert that's going to indicate to me that a student has a special education or an IEP, is eligible for special education or has an IEP or has a 504 document. This is also going to be applied for students who have an ELL plan, a response to intervention plan, a tier 2 or a tier 3 plan, gifted, and so on. So this is an automated alert, and it's based on the student's eligibility for that particular program. So once that student is determined eligible in the system based on the documentation that's been created, this alert is going to appear so that your teachers, your administrators, they know that a student in their classroom or school or district has this important documentation. Now, once we know that, we really need to make it easy to access, right? We don't want to be digging into logging into another system or digging through a filing cabinet. So all we'll need to do is click on our student's name that we know has this documentation we need to review. Select our option for special programs, and what is going to open up is what I call this student's document library for any documents that exist under those special programs modules that we mentioned, right? RTI, special ed, ELL, so on and so forth. And what's wonderful about this, and I think you'll find, is that all of this information is now located in a central repository, and you can easily tell exactly what's gone on with this student. So the student that I'm using as an example today, we've got some RTI documents here that we can access. We can see that Dylan's had a tier 1 plan, a tier 2 plan, a tier 3 plan, started out with an RTI observation form, and ultimately was referred for special education. We can also see here that Dylan was evaluated, we got consent for the parent, and then we can go ahead and start that IEP process. So again, everything you need to see what's happened from Dylan from point A to whatever point Dylan's at right now is going to be available in this centralized repository. More importantly, it's driven by security access. We know that not everybody needs access to all of these documents, and even folks that need access to a document may not need to edit a document. They may need to just view a document. So those are all security permissions that are going to be able to be determined and configured at the district level so that you can mimic the processes for what information should be available to which staff. I'll use an example. You may want to give classroom teachers just the IEP at a glance or summary page. That way they can see what programs and services that student needs. They can see what accommodations that particular student needs, right? And then they can go about their day. So everything, again, centralized location, accessible in the screens that folks are utilizing every single day. So if I scroll back up, I just want to again reiterate that what you're seeing in terms of special programs is not limited to just the documents that you see listed in Dylan's document library, but again includes a whole plethora of document templates available for the various special programs modules. So I'll scroll through these slowly, but we've got our RTI document templates, again, Tier 2, Tier 3, meeting summaries, parent invitations. We've got all of our 504 documentation as well. We've got our plan, our consent, our eligibility. The special education documents, of course, will be reflective of the Alabama state requirements, so they'll be a little different than what you see here in this list, but they will be in this exact same access area. Our ELL documents, those home language surveys, the testing accommodations those students need. Your gifted documents, again, will reflect Alabama state requirements. And in that vein of making sure we have everything that's important to this student's journey in special programs, whatever that is, we want to also be able to upload other documents that are important and need to be reviewed by our staff. And so that last option you see would allow someone to upload any other document. Maybe it's an out-of-state IEP or a contracted evaluation from an outside provider. We want staff that need access to that to have access, not digging in another system, so you can upload it, give it a name, and then it will also have those same security permissions that we talked about associated with it. So really simple to use. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to launch us into a document just to show you a couple of the time-saving features. We've really tried to, over those 20 plus years of being on the market, reduce the number of clicks, reduce the number of logging in and out of different systems so that your teachers, your administrators really end up being able to save that time for more time with their students. So I'll show you just a few examples of how we've done some of those things. These are all live links to documents. Assuming I have access to them, I can just go ahead and click on that and it's going to open me right up. This is, again, our IEP, again, generic today, but Alabama specific, very shortly, coming soon. I want to just show you a quick example of how we solve for folks inadvertently either missing steps or maybe putting incorrect information in, because again, we're hurrying through some of this stuff, we're trying to get it done. Many times it's a race to the finish, right? And so we like to say, it sounds a little corny, but my statement is that we try to make it easy to do the right thing, and we make it a little harder to do the wrong thing with things like business rules and things that are going to promote compliance as we go through. So you see I took that date out of the meeting date and it turned pink. You're going to see lots of pink fields as you work through these document templates regardless of the special programs module. That's really indicating that it's required information, right? We want to make sure that we're securing that information and that we have that for reporting purposes. Furthermore, if I go ahead and I put this date in, and I'm, got a lot of things to do today, and I accidentally, whoops, let's do that one more time. And I put in the wrong year. It's going to catch that for me, okay? So we see a lot of times in a lot of cases, if you're working in the world of special education, you may see that a program or a service is starting 3 weeks before the IEP was implemented, right? We want to make sure we're solving for those kinds of things. So those are the types of business rules that are going to drive compliance that we're going to work with the state to make sure that we're capturing in the system and help to solve for any compliance challenges that you might be having currently with your current system. So we can just quickly make that change and go ahead and save that. So that's great for compliance, but what other kind of time-saving features might we have in here? So I'm going to quickly just take us over to the present levels section of this particular document. Now, keep in mind what I'm showing you here applies to all of the document templates for the special programs modules we talked about. That's one of those ways we make it really easy to use. All of these templates for the documents are very consistent in the way they're created, and then all of the data inputs as well. So you're going to see, usually in present levels, we've got lots of required fields. There's of course no limit to the amount of text we can put in here. We can have banks of statements in places where those make sense. One of our big time-saving features and one of the more popular features with staff, and I like to sometimes be a fly on the wall when we do trainings and show this feature, which is our speech to text. So I can click on the microphone and then anything I say will automatically be entered into that text box, period. Just click on that insert text and you'd be surprised, it's way more accurate than Siri. And if you've ever filled out some of these narrative text fields when we're talking about special programs, they can get really long, really lengthy. And if you're not a great typist like me, something like this can be a huge time saver. So that's one of the more popular features we see. The other thing that we've really tried to solve for is that gap that sometimes exists in communication and collaboration between our general ed staff, our special program staff, and our administrators. And it's not for lack of trying, it's just there are only so many minutes in a day that I can go out and log into my email system and download a document and send it to someone, or go try to grab them to talk about a student that we have in common, or maybe we need input on present levels for that student, something of that nature. So to solve for those types of things, we've integrated all kinds of communication and collaboration features throughout the system to try to make it as easy as possible to communicate and collaborate with your staff. So in this case, if I wanted some additional information from, say, the math teacher on Dylan's strengths, right? What would I normally do? Maybe download the document, send it over the internet, log into my email. Not a super secure way to do any of that. But in this case, we're a couple clicks away. We say send a message with the document. What I love is that anybody referenced in a document is automatically going to assume you might want to send it to that person. So it could be a whole list here, or you could have your, as I call them, your usual suspects up there on the left. And I don't even have to send this whole document. I literally can just link it to that section. And now I can ask for math strengths from my classroom teacher, right? What's great is when I hit send on this, not only is it going to land in my PowerSchool dashboard, right, that I have access to and that hopefully I'm checking every day, but maybe I'm not. This is also forwarded to my school user email account, which I think is fantastic because hopefully most people are checking their email at least once a day. This is going to land in their email. They'll get a secure link telling them that they have an important message waiting. They will click on that link and it's going to open them up directly, in this case, to the present level section with that communication. They can put in the math strengths, directly message me back from within the system, and we can have communication and collaboration without ever having to leave the system, which I really think is great. That's one example, but there are tons of examples that you're going to see as we move through this and as we implement this special program system for you. So the last thing that I want to just quickly touch on is going to be reporting. Like I said, any of the reports you're utilizing now, you're going to have access to those reports in PowerSchool Special Programs. We've got a fantastic reporting tool that allows you to report on any piece of data that's being collected in the system at any level. It'll come with some reports as well, of course. Let's come over here to our reporting tab, and I'll show you just a couple quick examples of what those look like. We've got two types of reports. One is it's called a list report, and then the other is a multi-dimensional report. So it's looking at multiple dimensions of data for groups of students. So let's start with one of those multi-dimensional reports. So these are standard: disability by ethnicity, disability by gender, disability by grade. Let's take a look at the disability by grade just as an example. Come over here, and all of these reports are going to be one-click drill down to you. All right, so we have our grade levels here at the top. We've got our primary disability categories running over on our left. But at any point, if I want to see the 22 students in the 6th grade with visual impairments, click on that. It's going to give me that whole list of 22 students. I can go directly into a student record. I can go directly into that, as far down as I need to take a look at what's going on in this case, Cody. What I love about the reporting feature, though, is no matter how far you go down the rabbit hole, you can go one click right back to that report, all right? We don't need to hit the back button 16 times and try to get back to where we were. You're always going to have one click back into that report. And all of these reports are going to provide you with charting and graphing capabilities built right in. So any of these column headings or row headings, and we'll take the total column here and get ready for a little bit of disproportionality warning in the demo database, but it's going to show you that pie chart. You can look at it in a graph chart as well. And again, you're going to give you those direct numbers. I can see my 90 students with visual impairments in that one-click drill down, again, from the chart or graph view as well. So you're not limited to the multidimensional reports that I'm showing you here. Again, you'll have an unlimited number of reports that can be created. Let's go back over to our standard reports and look at one other one. We've got a lot of compliance reports in here. And again, make sure you're thinking about this outside of the scope of just the one that I'm going to show you for IEP and annual reviews. These are going to be true for your 504s, for your students that are receiving Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions, those other special programs modules as well. Let me click on this annual review report. What's great is immediately I'm going to have a visual. And that visual is going to be color coded. It's going to show me students who are in green, who are in yellow, who are in red. Anybody can guess what the red means? It's not great. You don't want to see a lot of red on these reports. Students are going to show up on these reports when they're 60 days out, in this case from their annual review. We have these reports for overall compliance, re-eval compliance. They'll turn yellow when they're 30 days out, and then again, red is going to indicate out of compliance. Keep in mind that the data that somebody is going to have access to, again, is driven by those security permissions that we talked about, right? So if I'm a case manager or I'm a special education teacher, I'm seeing my class or my caseload. If I'm a principal, I'm seeing my school, and I'm seeing that my school by case manager. You see here as I scroll down, I can see my variety of case managers in my school. But if I've got district-wide access, statewide access, I'm going to be able to have a drop down here that's going to give me a list of schools. And since I have access to the district, just select that school and I can take a quick look at what's going on. If you are colorblind, no problem. We can have a quick access right here to tell you exactly what's going on, who's in what category. And the other thing, again, in terms of communication and collaboration, these timeline reports, they're in real time. They're obviously very, very important to stay on top of this information, but not everybody is remembering to take a look at these on a daily basis. We'll use a principal as an example. Need to stay on top of this, may not be looking at this every day. So what I can do in that case is come over here to my subscribe button, and I can just say, you know what, have these emailed to me on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Click off that. On those days specified, once I set that option, I'm going to get an email that morning when I come into school. Click on the link. It's going to take me directly into that report that's been shared with me. Furthermore, if I scroll down, you may have noticed that most of my case managers look like they have everything under control, but Angela's struggling a little bit, right? So what would I do in this case? I might pick up the phone, or I would download a report, and then already, once you've downloaded it, right, it's going to be not real time. So again, I just go over to my More button, and I just send a message directly to Angela. It's going to send that report. I can ask what's going on here in the body of the message. It's going to land in Angela's email account. She clicks on that link. Provided she's got access to that report, it's going to open her up directly into what's been shared with her. So another way of just really trying to solve for some of that communication and collaboration. This publish is what I like to think of as the required subscription. So for administrators, you could actually have these automatically sent out to groups of staff or individuals so that they're getting these on specified days of the week in terms of reporting. So that gives you that 10,000, hopefully 10,000 foot view into PowerSchool special programs and the different modules that we're going to be supporting as we roll out the implementation statewide. We are here to help you create value with your students, your administrators, and your staff. We're here to help solve for some of those communication challenges, those collaboration challenges, and to promote compliance wherever we can. So thank you for your time today, and we're really excited to work with you. I'm going to pass it back over to my colleague, Chad.
So we do want to take some time now. You know, we've looked at unified classroom. We've seen things from that perspective of parents, students, a little bit of teachers, caseload workers, some administrators. But I cut my teeth as a PowerSchool customer doing systems administration support. Did that for a local school district and then did it countywide for an entire countywide implementation of PowerSchool for several years before I actually joined the company as a solution engineer. And we want to break that conversation for administrators into 3 different parts. So I'm going to share some screen time here with Ed Diedick, but I get to kick things off. Some of the areas that we want to start and focus on are access to student data, PowerSchool's reporting and dashboards for administrators, talk about how we can kind of give our guidance counselors some increased tools to work with their students, and then take a very high-level look at scheduling within PowerSchool. That's probably something every single one of your high schools is embroiled in right now, getting schedules set up and get ready for next year. It was always a huge thing for my local school districts when I worked with them, and it was a very long and labor-intensive process. But PowerSchool's got some tools that really can ease some of that burden and get you a master schedule that's built without having to spend hours upon hours standing in front of a whiteboard and moving little chips around and then breaking out your calculator and doing a bunch of calculations. So we're going to jump in and take a look at things as an administrator. PowerSchool is very student focused. When we get in as administrators, there's kind of an assumption we're looking for student data. That doesn't mean it's all we have access to, but it's where we're going to start. And we would assume that we can search for students based on things like a name or a student ID number. There's probably not a student information system out there that doesn't do that. But PowerSchool is going to give you the ability to search that student database on any piece of data in the student demographic table. And that's not just the fields that come with PowerSchool. Because your school districts are going to have the ability to configure PowerSchool to meet your unique needs, any custom fields that you put in, information that's unique to your school district, can be searched here as well. And so just as a demonstration of a couple of different ways to search for information. You know, if I start typing in student names, it's going to bring back lists of kids for me. And I have some choices here as an administrator in what I see. Maybe I don't want to see inactive students in these lists when I do these search. That doesn't mean I can't search for inactive students. I just won't see them when this smart search feature's turned on. But you can also see there's things other than student names showing up here. And those are fields from our student demographic tables. I'm also going to have stored searches and special searches that I can do, and those will come up here as well. So when somebody rushes in and tells me that, you know, there's a dark brown liquid seeping out of locker 2202, I can get in and search my student database and find that information. I have 2 students. We can immediately get in, go to their current class, pull them out, ask if either one knows about what this is. Hopefully it's just an exploded can of Coca-Cola or something. But searching, you can do more complex searches here as well. You know, if I was a counselor and I needed to find all of my students who have an active enrollment in one of our science classes, I can actually use some of PowerSchool's special searching capabilities. I'm not limited to searching against fields. I can search against more dynamic pieces of information. So I want to find all the kids that are enrolled in. Now that might look like Greek to some people, but once you learn some of the simple tools for searching in PowerSchool, I'm just telling the system, show me kids that are enrolled in any course that the course number starts with SCI. So our course numbers in this demo database have letters, they're alphanumeric. One of the things you'll have the ability to do is have your own local course numbers, but also align with state course numbers as well when they're set up in the system. So a simple search like that shows me my 297 kids that are enrolled in any of our science courses. If I had wanted to narrow that down to a specific course number, I could. I can even search for students very easily within a couple of clicks who might be enrolled in a specific section within my school. And why might I want to do something like that? Because maybe I'm an attendance secretary who needs to put in attendance for all the band kids that went on a field trip today. So if I get into my teacher's schedules and go to Gordy Burnt's classes, or maybe in this case it's the chamber singers who are going to the Capitol and singing in the rotunda this afternoon. Within just a few clicks, I can actually be putting in an attendance change for a group of 63 kids. Easy peasy, make my life simple. So searching for students, working with student data, easy access for your administrators. If you do complex searches on a regular basis, you can actually put those in the system as stored searches and make them available to everybody in your office. So if somebody has a search they need to be done, maybe it's not a search that I know how to build. If they've put it in and stored it, they could send me a message and say, hey, I need you to run this search, grab those kids and send me this data real quick. And I can do that in PowerSchool because your data in PowerSchool is your data. We're guardians of it, but it's your data. You have access to it as a school district. So we have multiple tools you'll learn how to use during the implementation process of getting data out, whether you need lists of kids, quick exports, or you need to be able to print reports from the system, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. So let's get in and look at one of our students and see what a student record looks like. We're going to pick on Andy here. When I get in, I see his bell schedule, but I also see a long list of pages here on the left. Everything for me as an administrator is controlled by security, and that security can change based on the context of which building I'm at. Your district may have administrators who need access to more than just the building they live in. Maybe a secretary might have to be able to go to other buildings to look for students who were previously enrolled, or track information differently at different buildings. Maybe I'm a central registrar and I need to be able to access all the buildings to be able to track student information down. I can do that in PowerSchool, and this menu on the left can change based on which school I'm at. So for me as a user, I have access to Mountain Brook High School, Mountain Brook Junior High, and Brookwood Forest Elementary. When I change over to Mountain Brook Junior High and look at any of the students, notice how that list changes for me. Because at this building, my security settings have changed. I'm in a different user role, and it limits what I can see and do here. So security in PowerSchool is going to give your school district the ability to define what pages an office administrative staff user can access and what kind of access they have to those pages. Whether it's view only, read only, and that access can change on a building by building basis. The other thing that you're going to have is the ability to do field data validation and field level security. Now at this building I can't change much information on these pages, but if I move back to Mountain Brook High School, we actually have some field level security set up on our fields for all of our students. So when I look at their demographic information, in this case I couldn't go in and update Andy's legal name because the security role I'm in doesn't let me do that. Maybe at your school district, you might only have 1 or 2 people that could update pieces of information like that. You're going to have that capability to get as granular as you need to, right down to the field level. And we're going to talk a little more about security a little later, so I don't want to steal all of Ed's thunder. Some other things you may be noticing on this page when you're in a student record. A, it's a very comprehensive record. I'm 1 click away from any piece of information. So not only is it your data, you're going to have easy access to that data. If I'm a school counselor who needs to get in and look at things like historical grades, or we've just had a new student transfer in, I could put in historical grade information if I need to. Ed's got some great news about that for you in a few minutes, so keep that in the back of your mind. Preview there. Cue the trailer music. This is one area, though, where things are audited, that you can easily see that audit information. If anybody goes in and adjusts one of these historical grades, this is going to be audited in the system so we can see what happened and when. If somebody changes this C to a, or C plus to a C and submits that, we can immediately tell those changes have been made. Who changed what day, what time, and when. If a parent ever calls and says, hey, The information's different between the report card I got at the end of quarter one and the report card I got at the end of quarter two. We can go in and give you the tools as administrators to start that process of looking into how things got changed. There's also a lot of great tools in the system to make sure that grade books get locked down at the end of a term. That way things like final grades aren't being updated inadvertently by teachers that may have forgotten to put in some assignment scores. Another key part of what you get with PowerSchool is the ability to customize and configure the system to meet your needs. We're going to talk more about the PowerSchool community a little later on in the demonstration here, but this is an example, my counselor dashboard, of how you could take something that's already easy to use and make it even easier to use. This is something that's available through our PowerSource exchange. It's a community where PowerSchool users actually share system customizations with each other. This counselor dashboard takes information that's normally available on multiple different pages within the student record and pulls it together in one area so that if I'm a high school counselor who's sitting down with a student, they're sitting across from me, and instead of having to jump back and forth between 4 or 5 different pages, which is easy enough since it's all right there, they actually created a customization to bring it all together in one page. There are hundreds and hundreds of system customizations like this that are freely available in the PowerSchool user group community, and our customers share those freely with each other. Some other things, you know, PowerSchool is not just going to limit you to basic demographic information. Things like test results. You're going to be able to bring high stakes, state level test score information into PowerSchool. You can have as many different types of tests as you want. Each test can have its own type of test score that you're tracking. More importantly, as you build your lists of exams or tests that you want to keep track of, this is all reportable information. So that when I need ACT scores on a transcript, maybe Andy needs a transcript to go to Alabama, and we want to get that out as quickly as we can for him. So I'm in his account, I print that out. Within just a few seconds, I have our customized transcript for Andy. And I can include things like those test scores on that transcript. When it comes to reports in PowerSchool, whether it's a form letter, a mailing label, a report card, or something like this transcript, any information that's in your student demographic record can be included on those reports. And you'll have the autonomy to be able to build those yourself and make them meet your district's specific needs without having to call PowerSchool and say, hey, we need this report adjusted. Can somebody take care of that for us? Some of the other dashboards that are going to be available to your administrators, regardless of what role they play in the office. And again, all of these things can be controlled via security. So if I'm your attendance secretary, I need a dashboard where I can get easy attendance information. One click from my start page and I'm right there. I'm going to get a list of kids who are absent based on the different attendance categories we may be setting up, and I can easily review that information. I have things that are going to jump out at me. A lot of these kids have been marked absent for the full day. We either knew about it in advance, maybe an out-of-school suspension, or the parents called in. But I've got a couple of abnormalities here. Jenny Lynn Bailey was only absent first hour. I don't remember Jenny Lynn Bailey checking in. So I could actually do some research now and find out, okay, she's in fourth hour. Let's go ask where she was in first hour. But more importantly, Kylie never checked out. Kylie was marked absent by her teachers in second, third, and fourth hour, but not in first hour. With a single click, I'm going to be able to get into Kylie's data. All right, this is an A day. We're running a rotating schedule in this high school. She had Greg Manston first hour today. Did Greg actually take attendance? From my dashboard, I can see that quickly and easily. No, Greg didn't take attendance today. Well, maybe Greg had a substitute teacher. Now, PowerSchool is going to give you the ability to let your substitute teachers take attendance. And in a lot of schools, we don't even worry about giving them access to computers because your subs are probably showing up at school with one of these in their pocket. And they could actually access that sub portal on the phone they brought with them and take attendance for the classes that they're in today using a password that you set and maintain in the office, and it can change every day. But you could also go in as an administrator and take attendance for Greg. Maybe that sub filled out some sheets of paper, sent them down. I can go in as an administrator and take attendance the exact same way the teachers can. Some other dashboards that we'll have easy access to as administrators, things like our enrollment summary. And on a lot of these types of dashboards and reports that I'm seeing on my screen, this data is clickable and actionable data. So if for some reason I needed to find out who all of my African American students were, there's a list of those kids. I can make them my current selection. Once I have a current selection of kids in PowerSchool, I can mark attendance for them, I can mass enroll them in classes, I can print off letters, report cards, transcripts. There's a long list of group functions that you'll learn to use as you become familiar with the PowerSchool SIS. Maybe you're an assistant principal who's in charge of discipline. What do you have for dashboards? With PowerSchool's incident management, you'll be able to get in and quickly find the incidents that you need to take care of. Right now I'm filtered for the whole year, and I'm filtering based on the different actions associated with my student offenders. Maybe I want to look for specific behaviors within those incidents. This is going to tie into the state reporting that you do to the state. For example, one of the things that I noticed when I was in as an attendance person, I do have a student who currently has an out-of-school suspension, Ian Odney. If I get in and look at Ian's account and go into where we track all of that incident information, I can see Ian has a history of getting in trouble. Just this year, he's had 6 different incidents. The most recent one, another example of harassment and bullying, just this week. So he's out of school for the rest of the week. But this is where I track that information. Anything that's state reportable, and all of this information is pushed over to your school district. So you don't have to worry about updating state reporting fields. We're going to be doing that for you as part of what you get. But being able to build those incidents, complex incidents that involve more than one student or staff member or even outside community members, tracking whether they happen on campus or off campus with specific locations, and then associating various actions and behaviors and objects and outcomes with those various participants in the event. So those are just a few of the dashboards that you have access to within PowerSchool as an administrator. Now we do want to spend a few minutes just talking about scheduling. You know, the goal of scheduling is not to be this guy. It's not to spend your entire summer standing in front of a whiteboard. You should have tools that are available to you that let you fulfill as many course requests and teacher requests as you can automatically. And PowerSchool does that. When you use PowerScheduler, you have the ability to build complex master schedules quickly and easily, putting in the effort up front to define what kind of schedule you want, and then letting the system build it for you instead of you having to move a bunch of tiles around and calculate things. 99 periods in a school day if you need them. Course terms, the buckets that we schedule those classes into, as short as 1/12 of a school year and up to 26 days in a rotating cycle. These are some of the examples of some of the common types of schedules that we see across not just the nation but around the world, as PowerSchool is an international school or an international product. Building schedules is straightforward when we need to make manual adjustments. In this case, I see that I've got a 5 or 6 period day and a 5-day rotation, and I can specifically identify what days and periods this course is going to be meeting in. We also have the ability to assign co-teachers to classes. Classes can have multiple primary teachers who share a load if you need to. So you could have even 3, 4, 5 different teachers associated with a class in different roles with varying levels of access. A co-teacher might have the same access as the teacher. A co-teacher might only have read-only access into the grade book because that's all they need. As you're going through the scheduling process, defining, when can a teacher teach? How many periods in a row can they teach? How many sections of this class do we offer? You can also put in a robust set of prerequisites and teacher course recommendations. So they need to have passed this. If they took the course before, they can't have gotten this grade or better, and they need a teacher recommendation. And you can combine those to be as robust or as simple as you need them to be for any course. Once you've got all the information in, you run the schedule building process. It's done in a queue-based system, so you can do it multiple times and then go back and revisit previous schedules that you've had it build. And once you finally get a schedule that you're pretty happy with and may need just a few tweaks, that's when you start doing whiteboard. Instead of starting with all those tiles on the screen, you can wait until the end, just move the things that you want to tweak and let the system do those calculations for you to report out on seats per grade per hour and things like that. Conflict matrix, as you move those tiles around, being able to get instant feedback on how many conflicts did this move create. No, I'm going to move it back where it was and we'll try and adjust something else. Because again, we want the system to put as many kids in classes as possible for us and fulfill as many teacher preferences as possible without having to do a lot of moving around on our own. As we continue to look at the administrative side of PowerSchool over the next 10 minutes or so, I want to talk about things like data hygiene, data validation, an early warning system that you're going to get with the system, and then some more in-depth ad hoc reporting tools as well. Data hygiene in particular is important, not just because we want to have good data in our own system, but because the state of Alabama wants good data when they get it from us, right? So what tools are we going to have in place to help with that? You may have noticed when I was in looking at some of the student accounts, there were some nice colors on those screens. So we're going to get in and look at Andy's account again. And we're going to look at that demographics page. And this is a validation tool that's going to make that process of keeping the data clean easier for your staff members. When you have data that's out of compliance, in addition to data validation rules that can keep data from being malformed, so not only do I want a phone number here, I want it to be in the correct format. We can identify which fields need to be required, but we can also define how those fields need to look. That was a big one for me. I always wanted my phone numbers in a specific format because we had a calling system. And if the phone numbers weren't in the right format in PowerSchool, the calls wouldn't go out from the calling system. So I was constantly having to do validations like that. And then I learned that I could do it right within the product, and it made my life a whole lot easier. So we're going to be able to get that information, and when I look at any student's demographic page, I'm going to have that little circle in the right corner just letting me know what's going on with data validation here. Maybe there's not an issue that's going to keep me from submitting this page. And a lot of times a data validation error can keep a page from submitting. If I try and submit that malformed telephone number, it says, wait, you got to fix this before we can move on. Okay, so I go back and I fix it. Oop. And submit it, and now that data is clean. It's the way I wanted it in the system. And that's going to be applied to all of your state reporting data too. And you'll be able to use the data validation dashboard for state validation to get in and quickly fix errors like that. This is going to update in real time anytime you're looking at it. So I have 6 things, and some of this is even going to be just regular demographic data for us. but maybe I've got kids who are missing information in their addresses. I could go in and fix this right here. If I know that information, I see the kids, I could get that information, fix it on this screen, and it's going to update their accounts. The idea being, by the time you reach a required reporting period with the state, you're going to have the tools in PowerSchool to make sure that the data they're getting is flawless, so nobody's got to go in later and read an error report and then fix a bunch of things in PowerSchool. You're going to be able to fix it all up front. The state gets clean data, you send clean data, and everybody's happy. And we save a lot of money because we're not spending time waiting, going back and forth, trying to solve complex error codes and figure out what's going on with our state reporting data. We also have an early warning system. So this is an output report of what that early warning system can show you. I have a bunch of students in this school who have attendance issues, discipline issues, low grade alerts, and credit alerts. For each one of your schools, they'll be able to go in and actually define what the early warning system needs to look like to tag the students in that building. What attendance codes do we want to track for early warning? Because tracking at-risk students is one of the best things we can do to help get them through school. And the earlier we can detect their risk, the more we can help them. So what attendance, how often do they need to have been absent to show up with an attendance risk? If they're getting any certain number of grades, what's the threshold? If they have one of these grades in a current class for the current term, we want them to be on the report, or maybe two. So we get to define those things as a school and a district. Behavior settings, credit settings. Does a student actually have enough credits to graduate right now? Okay, well, if they're on that list, maybe I need to start getting in and looking at things like their graduation plan progress reports. I'm going to have easy access to that. So I can get in and actually see, based on the reports we set up, how is this student doing in terms of graduation progress. These are also screens like this that parents and students can access, teachers can access, and you can have multiple types of graduation plans that then feed off of that early warning system, so you can go in and track how are they doing in terms of getting out of school so that we can move them on and have a successful graduation. The last thing I want to look at before I hand the floor over to Ed is our enterprise reporting. So PowerSchool has great reporting tools for building things like form letters, report cards, transcripts, and mailing labels. Those kind of reports, you can build as many of them as you want. You can push those out so teachers can print them from their classroom. There's no greater relief in the office than to know I never have to print another class roster again because my teachers can do it on their own. Or that emergency bus list, when they're going on a field trip, they have access to print that right from their teacher portal, and I don't have to run those anymore. Enterprise reports kicks things up and takes it to a new level. What if I am a principal who's dealing with performance over a term? Now, you know, there are a lot of great data analysis tools out there, and PowerSchool has one that you can look into. But you can do some of that right within PowerSchool. So I want to look at one of the reports that comes with PowerSchool out of the box. Enterprise reports is where I take large data sets, and PowerSchool includes 7 of these for you, but your schools and your districts can develop their own, and customers are sharing data sets with each other through the PowerSource Exchange as well. So I want to look at the student grades report, and I just want to see how are we doing maybe semester 1 comparisons of student performance. So I have the ability with all of this data that's in the system to build something like this chart that's showing me, based on a filter I've set up here, for my SCI 1000 class, which I think is biology. Here's semester 1 performance over 4 school years. So in 2015, kids were averaging around 81% at the end of the semester. The 2016, they got up to almost 83%. Big jump in 2017. Smart group of kids came through, almost 88, 89% average. This year's group, not doing quite as well. So I can get ad hoc reporting, instant results like that, save these reports for then to reference and go back to later. So the similar type of report built off of the same data set, but now I'm looking at this in a tabular format. I'm actually seeing semester by semester comparisons for biology, and if I wanted to pick a different course, I could just go in and quickly adjust my filters and choose from a list, or if I knew the course that I wanted to choose, I could quickly get that in there. So English 3100. So for creative writing, I now have comparisons of how students performed in those classes over the 3 most recent years that we have grades in the system for them. Like I mentioned, this reporting tool is going to give your district the ability to build your own custom data sets in addition to the ones that already come with the system, and then use this ad hoc reporting tool so that instead of exporting data out of PowerSchool to manipulate it in Microsoft Excel or some other program, I can build those reports right in the student information system, have easy access to them, come back and get them refreshed with the latest data anytime I need that data. Data hygiene, we're going to make it easy. We want to make sure that the data that's going to the state is clean without having to do a lot of error correcting later. You're going to be able to build your own data validation rules on any field in PowerSchool to make sure data is getting put in the way you want it to as a district. We've got that early warning system that's going to give you insight into what's going on in terms of students who may be at risk. And then ad hoc reporting tools that take the built-in core reporting tools and add on to those and give you additional functionality there. Ed's going to come up and talk to us about student transfers and a few other administrative tools.
Great. All right, Chad, thank you so much. We're on the home stretch. Hello, folks. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the tools that we're providing at the state level that are impacting districts and making life a lot easier for you. So being able to transfer students from district to district, that's being handled now through PowerSchool, through the state solution that we're providing. We're building all of that out, and I'll walk you through some slides on that a little bit. Also providing enterprise control. So with state reporting, we're able to actually take code sets and drop downs. As Chad was showing you throughout the application, there's things that we'll be setting for Alabama. That can be set at the state level and pushed out to every district instance. So that's done once and everything's uniform. So the districts still have their own autonomy, yet the state can provide very structured and drop downs and menus and items within PowerSchool to make it very simple and easy. And there's no installation that has to happen at each district level or anything like that. I'm going to talk a little bit about an integration tool set. So Chad talked about giving the districts autonomy. Everybody needs to do something a little bit different. Every district needs to look a little bit different. Having the same cookie cutter approach doesn't work for every size district, every type of district. And so our integration tool set allows the districts to actually modify, change, and add things within their control to make the district tool set what they need it to be, giving you the autonomy. So looking at how we take the enterprise controller, we're basically providing at the state level the ability for the state and PowerSchool to help drive those functions. So if the state needs to add a piece of data that they're collecting for a new report, maybe it's a federal report we're collecting data for, they can actually create that screen, they can create that field, they can create that drop down, the choices that the districts may have to enter, and they can push that to every district in the state of Alabama. We do this in other states today. It works very, very well, and it saves a lot of time and a lot of effort. They can then provide the training around that. They can even have pilot groups that are testing it with them to go through that process. And so that enterprise controller basically sends that data out to all the district servers, and then all that data that you then enter at the end user level that Chad showed you, where you're actually getting it very clean through the nice green and red and yellow interfaces, is then all automatically rolling up to the ODS at the state level. So then the state can do all their analysis with the same type of tools that Chad just showed you with the enterprise reporting. So that enterprise reporting tool that we showed you for the district level also works at the state level on the ODS and looks at all the data that you're providing at the district level. So really, really great. Again, being able to transfer student data, so when you need to transfer a student in from another district, that all happens through this same process. So the requests go out, that data can flow right into your system and you get all their transcript data. Chad showed you where the data would flow in for historical grades, all those different things. All that is transferred back and forth through you through a nice secure interface and makes that reporting very, very easy. I had one other slide in there, but one of them was about the API. And let me just see if I can update this real quick here. There it is. So PowerSchool has a built-in API, and I know there's a lot of tech folks on the call. And this is one of those things that sets PowerSchool apart from most in the industry. So PowerSchool provides the same security level that we've shown you today to the level of access that you can provide through in-house applications that you may build. We know that there's some districts that build their own applications, they build their own screens, their own tool set, and they want to be able to provide that. So provide data access, they want to get plugins. Chad talked a little bit about the community where you can share different applications, and you can bring those in as well. Providing a full extended schema, so you can add your own schema to PowerSchool in any form that you want. That's very, very powerful. To most of us, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but for those techie folks out there who are trying to extend PowerSchool to meet the needs of their district at that moment in time, it's absolutely irreplaceable. So there's a community of folks out there that do customizations, that build and using this technology. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I'm going to first turn it over to Aaron to talk about our community and the professional development process. So,
like I said, I'm Aaron Dollinger. I lead our talent sales organization, and you probably know my team and potentially me or David Michael Love through Teach Alabama. And what I want to share with you for the next 10 minutes or so, maybe 15, sorry Ed, is about a professional learning tool. So the lens by which we've been looking through PowerSchool for the last hour and a half or so, and like Ed said, we're on the home stretch here, so I'm the guy that gets to bring us home in some ways before I hand it off to Lisa, is through the lens of our teachers and their professional learning. So what does this look like for our teachers going forward and administrators, and how do we make that experience more a better experience for them when they're trying to renew their certifications and their licensure and really ultimately grow in their craft, in their practice, and in their profession. Predominantly, the way we'll look at this is through, what does that look like at the course level? How do we make it easier for them to apply or for them to enroll in courses? We'll look at it from in terms of induction and a playlist. How do we make this both at a state level and at a district level easier to put together a series of courses to ensure that our teachers and our staff are growing in the way that we need them to make this an easier experience for them. From a credentialing perspective, a licensure or a cert perspective, ensuring, of course, compliance that make it easier for our teachers to complete all of their hours and all of our administrators to complete their hours to renew their certification. And then we'll talk a little bit about what does this look like both at a state level and at a local level. So as we know, as Ed spoke to and Chad spoke to and Renee spoke to, this doesn't look the same for every district, and we know that. So we want to make sure that the solution is adaptable enough that we can both provide this at a state level to ensure compliance across all of our districts, while also driving down to the local level to ensure that we're providing the resources that are needed, to each and every district and their unique needs. So at a course level, what we are talking about, and I'll jump into the software here in just a second. Predominantly what we're talking about is how to ensure that our teachers and our staff can do the basics, right? Go into a course, register for a course, take attendance for that course, ensure whether it's an in-person training, whether it's at the district level again or at the state level, whether it's a self-paced course, whether it's online material or something that we provide at the local level that is created at the local level, or whether it's a PLC, a professional learning community. Bring all of those into one world. As we think about that, also in terms of at the local and the state level in terms of our course catalog. So what Dr. Mackey and Dr. Thacker and the state team provide in terms of professional learning opportunities, again, whether it's in person or whether it's online, being able to provide that across all of our districts across the state, and then giving our districts the ability to add in their own content, their own offerings, whether it's at a school level or whether it's at a district level, to ensure that not only are we providing the compliance requirements that are needed or providing those that the state deems necessary and helping in terms of growth, but also we know that each district has different needs and wants to provide different professional learning opportunities that can be done within the tool. And ultimately, make it collaborative, to be able to provide resources and tools to our districts to ensure that the experience is not just a teaching at them, right? We, as educators, we know that we want to make this a collaborative experience, so we want to ensure that these, so all of our districts can have the tools, whether it's discussion boards or other tools, similar to the student experience, are incorporated into the administrator and the teacher experience as well. A lot of times we'll see a discrepancy between what we think of as effective teaching or effective practice for a teacher to their students. How do we mirror some of that for our teachers as well, knowing that a lot of times our teachers and our staff learn the same way our students learn. We want to provide a similar experience in that way. So what I'll do is jump into the software here for just a minute to give you a flavor of what that looks like. And first I'll start as a teacher or as a staff member, because it isn't just exclusive to teachers. It can be all staff. We know we have different professional learning needs for sure for different staff. A lot of times we look at it through the lens of a teacher, but that doesn't preclude us or stop us from making this district-wide. And when we log in as a teacher, right away we know exactly what's expected of us, what we need to complete, what we need to do. If I have a required training that needs to be done, I can get there directly from my home page. If this is tied directly back to their evaluation, as an example, and for our districts like Shelby County who tie this to evaluation, we can require it directly from there to be able to log in again, whether that's self-paced, whether that's a PLC, whether that is instructor-led, all within my home screen. As a teacher, I can quickly, of course, come in and see those things that I'm already enrolled in terms of my professional learning opportunities. Or if I want to look at what is available to me, I have it right at my fingertips, and I can jump into, break it down by if I want to look at by course subject, if I want to look at it by the type of professional learning opportunity that it is, or if I want to look at it by credit area. I can quickly go in and figure out exactly what I'm looking for and register for that course. Of course, I can look at it in a schedule view as well, in a calendar. If I know I have something that's time sensitive, I need to see what's available soon in order to complete, if my certification or licensure is coming up soon. So as a teacher and I go in to register for a course, it's going to, of course, put me directly into that course. I have the option as an administrator, if I want to, if it's an in-person course, to be able to limit the number of seats, because we have, we only have a certain number of seats within the room to be able to register them into that course. You're going to be able to control all of that at a local level and make multiple offerings within a course. I spoke earlier to playlists, and we think about this in terms of whether it's the induction process, and as a new teacher to this district or to the state, I need to complete a series of courses. Again, it could be I need to complete a series of courses that are both in person and online. I can put all of those into a playlist to ensure that they're being done in sequential order or that they're being completed to remain compliant. This can be done both at the state level and at the local level, and it doesn't have to be exclusive to induction. This can be any time you want to put together a series of courses that need to be completed to achieve one objective. I'll touch on a couple more things, and then I'll jump quickly into the back end of the solution. We want to make it easier to transfer credits, and what we mean by that is we know that not all professional learning is provided by the state. Not all professional learning is provided by the district. There are times where we go to conferences and want to see credit. There are times where we take a university course and want to see credit. Being able to put that into the system, both on the front end, request approval for this to be counted towards credit with your rationale as to why this meets that credit criteria. Once you've completed it, be able to then provide reflection back to say this is exactly what I completed and what I learned, and then another approval process for whether it's a district administrator to say yes, this counts as credit and put it into your transcript. Which brings us directly to our transcript. So having one central repository where all of my professional learning credits and hours are able to be easily tracked and stored. And as a teacher or as an administrator, I can go in and see how many hours I have towards each certification area. Again, this is going to be specific to, we can make this statewide in terms of the certification areas, or in some cases we'll have additional fields for at the local level to determine where we want these to be bucketed. So I'm going to jump into the back end for just a minute before I hand it off to Lisa here. I'm sorry, before I hand it off to Ed here. As an administrator, we want to make it just as easy an experience for our administrators to log in. They're going to have a very similar look and feel. Of course, they're going to have their own professional learning opportunities, so their dashboard is going to also have required trainings. Where I'll spend the majority of our time is, for those who are actually teaching a course, to have tools available to them to make that a much easier process. So as I'm leading that course, I can immediately go in and take attendance, whether it's right here on my computer, whether I want to print name tags for all of the people who are going to be in this course and actually have a QR code on that name tag. So when I, as a teacher, walk into a room, instead of the teacher having to, or the instructor having to take attendance on their phone, which they can do in a mobile app, those who are enrolled can actually scan the QR code and it will take attendance directly from that. So a lot of different options to make that much easier. The last thing I'll wrap with, and I'm showing you a large solution in a matter of about 10 minutes, is of course we want to provide ad hoc reporting. So whether it's at, again, the state level or a local level, to be able to understand what professional learning has been completed, and be able to have all of the reporting needs you have right at your fingertips, right within the solution, not having to have any sort of external reports engine to drive all of the reporting needs. So with that said, I'll bring it back to the PowerPoint and hand it back to Ed.
Great. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the overall PowerSchool community. You have access across the state, access to this community already, and we encourage you to sign up for this. This gives you access to resources that you can already see. It gives you access to another community of people that can have been through what you're about to go through. As Dr. Mackey talked about, that's a difficult road at some point, and you're going to reach out. It's kind of one of those things where you can talk to others who have been through it before and feel good about what it is you're about to do. And so we encourage you to join into the community. We have PowerSource, which is our support community for PowerSchool and most of our products. This is where you can actually get some of those plugins. So maybe there's something that you've been doing manually and you find that there's a plugin already there that somebody created and they can just add it into PowerSchool, and now it makes your life so much easier because it's now connected to the student record and you can look it up and you can use the searching tools that Chad showed you. And it's right there and available, just part of the student information system that never had been there before. And it just, again, releases that time spent doing those other things the manual way. And so this gives extensive knowledge bases, forums, again, to communicate, training, etc. Speaking of things like training, we have training calendars and course catalogs of things that maybe extend beyond the training that you're already going to get as a part of this program. There may be things that you're doing in your district or your board or your school differently. You can do that. We also offer PowerSchool University, providing all different levels, from curriculum specialists to technology experts to admin folks, even doing some of the deep level API type things. All can be gained, that knowledge can be gained at PowerSchool University. And I want to point out that for just Alabama customers, we're giving $200 off of the Atlanta PowerSchool University. So right next door here, we're having a PowerSchool University this coming summer, and we're offering for all Alabama customers $200 off that admission for that. So this is something we've been doing a long time. When I used to know a lot more than I've already forgotten, I used to actually train at PowerSchool University. So it's a really, really great event. So those are PowerSchool events, but our customers actually have created their own ecosystem of events. And they're national, and they're regional, and they're all different kinds of events that go on. And here's just a couple of them. There's one happening here on April 29th to May 1st in the Southeast, over in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area. And that encompasses the Southeast area. There's also a national conference, again, put on by customers, with customers, for customers. You learn from exactly what they do in their environment. It's not, traditional PowerSchool training where we're teaching you how to do it. They're teaching you how to do it, but also here's how I did it differently, right? Or here's how I accommodated those things. I talked a little bit about the API and the different components that PowerSchool can add in with those robust tool set to extend and integrate. We have a partnership with over 100 different partners that plug right into PowerSchool. So when you sign up with one of these partners, they send you a plug-in that you basically drop into PowerSchool, and it enables their access to PowerSchool through single sign-on, through seamless data exchange. So whenever you're adding data into their system or adding it into PowerSchool, their system can read that data that it needs to interact seamlessly, as well as a seamless user interface. So if you take something like School Messenger, you don't even know that you're using School Messenger in PowerSchool. It looks, it feels, you do the search in PowerSchool for the group of kids you want to send a text chat to, you go in there and you go to the next screen. It's actually School Messenger, but it looks like PowerSchool. You don't even know that you're using School Messenger. Really, really robust. That's what the API allows our vendors to do, is make that so simple. And Chad talked about this. If we give a minute back every single day to every person, imagine how much time we're saving when we are able to do that. So I wanted to turn it over to Lisa. Lisa's going to close us out here and walk us through kind of what does this look like to actually get you up and running and what we've been working on for the planning stages. So Lisa?
Hi everybody, I'm Lisa Guzman. I am the VP of Sales for the South Region, and I am very happy to be here, and I want to first thank my team for bringing to you an overview of what Alabama has decided to bring to your students and to your schools. I also want to thank you for hanging out with us for these past 2 hours or so. We've only scratched the surface, and we are very much looking forward to digging deeper with both of our teams together. First, I also want to mention that I've been messaged that some of the video that you are receiving via live stream is a little blurry. Rest assured that we are recording it separately. We will put it together with the audio from this meeting so that we'll send it out to you in a very crisp and clean version that's easy for you to read. So when? I'm sure you're all thinking how and when, and we are all thinking the same, but very excited very shortly. This is our official kickoff, our presentation from the sales team. And then we're about to have a sales to service transition. And part of what we're already working on internally in PowerSchool is making sure that our team that's going to be picking up the ball from this point forward understands what has happened up to this point, what's happened over the course of the last several months during the RFP process and also during some of the conversations that we've had with you separately. So we are going to be very clear about the expectations and what's being rolled out. Our team will be meeting very soon with your team. We'll have a project manager assigned, and they're going to work with our experts and your experts together to determine the timing. Right here we've got kind of ballpark timing, but I think after our teams sit down together and start working together, we'll be a little more specific on exactly how and when each of these pieces are going to roll out. But I wanted to share with you the first couple steps is the student BPRs. What is a BPR? It's a business process review. We're going to start out talking with your team to decide what are the processes that you want to put in place. What are the workflows that are important to you? What are you doing now? What do you want to continue to do the same way? And maybe what do you want to do differently? And we're going to work together so that we can build that into the solution that we're bringing here. We're going to do that first with the student side or with the student information system, but kind of in tandem, we'll be doing it with the educator side. So with all the talent solution that Aaron spoke with earlier, working with those different groups of people, the stakeholders in each group, to make sure we're all on the same page and we're all getting our processes nailed down so that that's how it's going to roll out for you. And then you'll see that there's several months, it looks like maybe on this graph that nothing's happening, but I assure you both of our teams are going to be pushing up their sleeves and working very hard, configuring all the solutions to exactly the way it needs to look here in Alabama. And then hopefully beginning of 2020, we'll have our first group of districts that are ready to start getting into the live solution, doing some scheduling, and then being prepared in different groups. We show 3 there, but again, when our teams sit down together, we'll be more specific exactly how that's going to roll out, and that information will come to you shortly. Also, you'll see concurrently a lot of things are happening. As I said, we start with the student information system, then we layer in the unified classroom, the LMS solution, and then the special programs, the special ed solution that Renee spoke with you earlier. That's also going to be layered in around the same time, as well as the professional development and educator learning, again, the pieces that Erin just covered with you. So a lot of this is happening at the same time, and the ODS that Ed spoke about. All of this is going to be coming in together and coming together very nicely, very seamlessly. And then the last piece down here that our team has already thought of, and we want to make sure you know that we've thought of it, is that there are about 51 districts that are currently using our online registration solution, and it's configured for the iNow SIS. So we've got to go through and we've got to reconfigure that so it works seamlessly with the PowerSchool solution too. So that's all the work that's coming up, a lot of hard work. I want to thank you for the commitment to work through that with us. Our promises to you: we're going to continue to innovate, we're going to continue to invest, we're going to continue to integrate, and we're going to work with you. We're going to rely heavily on all of you to help make sure that we're heading down the right road, that the things that we're putting on our roadmap are things that are important to you and the things that the students here in Alabama need. And we have user groups and lots of different ways to communicate with us, but I don't want to overlook the importance of our feet on the ground here. Your initial points of contact will always continue to be Jenny Scott, Nat Swan, and Dave Michalov. So please know that their information is here, and of course the rest of us in this team are not too far or too hard to get a hold of. So with that, I thank you very much, and Dr. Thacker, Dr. Mackey, any closing remarks?
Okay, well, thank you. It's good to be back, and we're just going to close out. I know that you have, as Lisa just said, many of you have stayed with us for a couple of hours. A couple of you have sent us a message again about the video screen. It seems just because we're recording it from the video screen, it's a little bit blurry on your end. But again, as they said, what they're going to do is they're taking the actual slides, not the recording. They'll take this audio recording and lay it over that, so you'll get the actual slides, and there won't be any fuzziness in that. Again, thank you all for hanging in there with us. This is, as has been said, it's the beginning, the kicking this off. The next couple of years, we're going to be rolling things forward, and especially this summer and into this next school year. Things are going to be moving pretty fast. We are certainly also working with, and we'll be working with the PowerSchool team to have a presence at different meetings, at the technology coordinators meeting, which they already have and will continue to have, at the superintendent's meeting, probably at Mega Conference this summer for those of you who are there. So there are going to be some opportunities, the reason I say that, to have personal interaction with the PowerSchool team, with our folks here at the department who are working with PowerSchool in this implementation. And certainly we want to let you know we're always available. As you run into those hurdles again, let us know what they are. Let's work through them together, and together we all learn. And by this time next year and the year after next, I'm very excited because we're going to end up with one of the premier systems in the country. Last thing I'm going to close with. Many of you don't know, but many of the people in this room do know, Alabama, who many times is maligned in national press, but we were actually the first state in the union to say we're going to have a statewide student information system back in the 90s. And many more states have followed suit since then. There are many other states jealous of us because they would like to have a statewide system, but they've invested so much in their individual local systems that they can't figure out how to pull it all together into a state system. So I'm excited that we were the first state to do a statewide system, and by the end of this implementation, I'm convinced we will have the strongest and most powerful and best state system in the country. So thank you very much. Thank you to the PowerSchool team for being here with us today, and for all of our State Department staff who've been a part of this too, and hope that the rest of your afternoon goes really well.